So you're like, trees? They don't talk, they just stand there. But here's the thing, buddy, trees do more than stand there. They whisper, they gossip, they even throw parties. Wait, really? Imagine if your neighbors suddenly started talking to you through a megaphone. But instead of hey, you're trash, they were like, it's really hot out. Have you seen the ants? That's basically what trees do. And you know it's wild. They don't even use words. They use chemicals like a secret handshake, but with more drama and less handshaking. So if you're out in the woods and you hear a weird creaking noise, maybe it's not the wind. Maybe it's the trees having a chat. Or maybe it's just the wind. Either way, it's weirdly fascinating. So what's the deal with trees whispering? Are they like the original TikTok influencers? Or are they just really good at hiding their gossip? Either way, it's one of those things that makes you go, okay, I'm gonna pretend I know nothing about it. But I actually do. That's the vibe. So what exactly are we talking about? Like, are trees even talking? Or are we just hearing them through some weird forced vibes? Trees don't actually talk, but they do communicate. Like, in a super slow plant way. Imagine if your phone sent you a text, but it took 10 years to get through. They use chemicals and underground cables, like a plant version of Wi-Fi. No, really, it's called the mycorrhizal network. It's basically a fungal internet. So, when you hear that tree whispering sound, it's probably just wind, or maybe a squirrel, or maybe the forest is just being weird. Like, you know, a forest with 300 billion trees. But don't worry, we're not just here to make fun of trees. We're here to learn how they talk, and maybe even how they feel. Because apparently, they have feelings. You probably think trees are just sitting there, like, doing nothing. But guess what? They're basically your favorite friend who's secretly plotting to ruin your life. And you're the one who's gonna get caught in the middle of it. Imagine if your neighbor had a way to know everything you do, and could mess with your plants without you even knowing. That's what trees are doing. They're like the ultimate pranksters with a PhD in plant science. And here's the kicker. You're part of this whole ecosystem, whether you like it or not. You're not just a human in a forest. You're a tiny, unknowing player in a giant, ancient game of tag. So, yeah, maybe you don't care about trees whispering. But if you ever want to know why your plants are acting weird, or why the forest is acting like a conspiracy group, you got to start paying attention. And honestly, if you're still not caring, just remember, trees are like the original social media influencers. They've been doing this for millennia. You're just the latest, least stylish follower. Okay, so trees have been talking to each other for like, forever. Back when dinosaurs were still in the dating app phase, trees were already sending secret messages. Oh no, they used to use chemical signals, like sending out little notes in the soil. Imagine a tree saying, hey, there's a bug army coming, let's all get ready. Then came the funky, the ultimate tree internet. They're like the Wi-Fi of the forest, connecting everything with their mycelium cables. Fast forward to today, and they're still chatting, but now with more advanced tools. Some trees even used sound waves, like a TikTok influencer with a megaphone. So yeah, trees have been whispering since the Stone Age. Just don't try to start a conversation with one. They're weird and they remember everything. So, trees don't actually whisper like humans, but they do talk to each other in a way. It's like when you shout at your sibling, but they're not mad, they're just listening. They use special chemical messages in the air, kind of like when you send a text to your friend and they get it even if you're not looking. It's like when you leave a note under your friend's door, but instead of paper, they use the wind and chemicals to send their messages. So trees don't whisper, but they do chat, like best friends who don't need words to know what's going on. It's kind of like when you're in a room full of people, and you don't need to speak to know who's laughing with you. Trees are like the cool, quiet friends who just know what you need before you ask. Okay, so first things first, trees aren't actually whispering like you or me, but they do have this cool way of talking to each other. Imagine if your favorite tree called you on the phone, but with a lot of leaves in a line. This communication happens through something called the mycorrhizal network. Think of it like a giant internet made of fungi, connecting all the trees in the forest. It's like a tree version of Wi-Fi. The fungi act as the middlemen, kind of like a delivery service for messages. They send nutrients and warnings from one tree to another, like a tree postal service with a side of mushrooms. But here's the kicker. The trees don't actually use words. They use chemical signals and electrical pulses, like a tree version of text messages and emojis. No need for a translator, just a tree dictionary. So the setup is basically, fungi act as the internet, trees are the users, and the whole thing is like a tree-based social media platform. Just no likes, only warnings and nutrients. Okay, so once the tree makes the chemical, it needs to send it out. And how? Well, it's like sending a message in a bottle, but the bottle is actually a root. The roots are like the tree's underground email system. The chemical travels through the roots, kind of like how you send a text. but instead of your phone, it's moving through a network of tubes called the mycorrhizal network. Think of it like a tree's version of the internet. Once a tree gets the message, it can respond. Maybe it's a warning about bugs, or a signal that it's time to grow more leaves. It's like getting a text from a friend saying, "Hey, there's a raccoon in my tree, don't sit under it." But here's the kicker. Not all trees can send or receive these messages. Some are like the shy kids at a party, only talking to a few friends. Others are the loud ones, sending out signals to the whole neighborhood. So in the end, trees don't whisper in the traditional way, but they do have a kind of talk. It's like a secret language, kind of like a text message, but with roots, chemicals, and a lot of underground drama. So here's the twist: trees don't just talk, they also dance. Like, literally, their roots wiggle and wave like you're trying to high-five the ground. It's like a tree doing a tiny, slow-motion moonwalk. This wiggling helps them send out more chemicals, kind of like how you yell louder if no one's listening. It's their way of saying, "Hey, I'm not just standing here, I'm trying to be heard." And guess what? This dance is contagious. If one tree starts wiggling, its neighbors might join in. It's like a tree version of a TikTok dance trend, but with roots and chemicals. So the whole system is like a group project. Trees are collaborating, chatting, and even doing the cha-cha to get their messages across. It's wild, it's weird, but it's how they stay in touch. And that, my friends, is how trees whisper. No phones, no Wi-Fi, just roots, chemicals, and a whole lot of tree drama. It's like a Netflix show, but with more fungi and less drama. Okay, so trees don't actually whisper, but they do use a kind of chemical Morse code. They send out chemicals through the air and the soil like a secret message network. It's like a tree version of Snapchat, but with more roots. These chemicals are like tiny messengers that say things like, "I'm under attack," or "Hey, there's a drought coming." They even warn other trees about insects or fungi before they show up. It's basically a tree neighborhood watch. But here's the kicker. They don't just talk to their own kind. Some studies say trees can even detect chemicals from other species. It's like a tree version of a multicultural coffee shop where everyone's trying to understand each other. And it's not just about danger. Trees also share nutrients through their roots. It's like a tree version of a food co-op. They trade carbon, water, and even help each other grow. It's kind of a tree version of a neighborhood grocery store. So while they don't whisper like humans, they definitely have a way of talking. It's like a tree language that's way more complicated than you'd expect. And honestly, it's kind of romantic if you think about it. So imagine trees are like really bad texters. They send messages, but they're always misspelled and they never use punctuation. It's like if your mom tried to text you and it was all RG2GMBRTXTBK. But instead of typing, they use chemicals. Like when you spill coffee on a keyboard, the smell travels through the air. Trees do something like that with chemicals called the OCs. It's basically a tree version of a smell emoji. And then there's the root network. It's like a tree's version of a Wi-Fi router. They use fungi to send messages through the soil. It's like if your plants had a secret club and you are not invited. So trees whisper by sending chemical messages through the air and underground. It's like if your plants had a chat app, but they're all in a group chat with 10,000 people and no one ever replies. And that's how trees whisper. It's not a secret language, it's just really good at being loud. Like if your plants had a megaphone and a sense of humor. So you're like, wait, trees are talking? Huh? They don't even have mouths. And I'm like, oh, they use a different kind of mouth, like a whole bunch of little tubes and roots. These tubes are like the tree's nerves, but way more blandy. They carry chemicals and signals, kind of like how your nerves send messages to your brain. It's like when you smell smoke and know there's a fire nearby. But trees do it with chemicals in the air, like a whole secret language of smells. And here's the wild part. They can even warn each other about dangers, like how some trees can tell when a beetle is coming and prepare their defenses. So yeah, trees don't have mouths, but they've got a whole system for sharing secrets, kind of like a tree version of a Facebook group, but way more chill. Okay, so there's this myth that trees whisper to each other using some kind of magical voice. But let me tell you, that's not how it works. Trees don't have lips, they don't have mouths, and they definitely don't have a voice. So, if they could talk, they'd probably be like, "Hey, why are you talking about me? I'm just a tree." Now I know what you're thinking, but trees do communicate, right? They send signals through their roots. Yeah, that's true, but that's not whispering. It's more like sending a text message through a secret underground internet. No need for a voice, just a signal. And here's the kicker, if trees could actually whisper, they'd probably be louder than a loudspeaker. Because whispering is for people who want to be heard without being heard. But trees don't need that. They just need to send a message. So, the next time someone says trees whisper, just smile and say, They might be sending a text, or maybe they're just trying to get your attention with a little root signal. Either way, it's not a whisper, it's a tree message. And remember, the real magic isn't in the whisper. It's in the way trees work together, like a group of friends sharing secrets through the ground. No need for a voice, just a connection. So, here's another myth. Trees whisper through roots like they're on a secret hotline. But turns out, they're more like sharing via a slow, underground internet. It's not exactly a whisper, more like a tree sending out a message through its roots like a message in a bottle, but in soil. The trees aren't whispering, they're more like posting on a soil-based Facebook, but with fewer likes and more fumble friends. So, no secret hotline, no underground whispers, just a slow, quiet, fungal-based internet that's way cooler than TikTok. You know how sometimes you're in a room and someone sneezes, and you just know everyone heard it? Trees do that too. They don't actually whisper, but they're like, hey, I'm over here, I'm fine, I'm not dead. Next time you're in a park, look for the trees that look like they're having a chat. They're not actually talking, but they're sharing info like old friends passing notes in class. This kind of communication is like when you text your mom and she replies instantly, even if she's actually on the toilet. Trees do that too, but with chemicals and a slower Wi-Fi. You might not notice it, but your city's trees are basically on a call with each other. They're like, hey, the sidewalk's getting hot, we should move our roots. So next time you're outside, remember that trees are part of a big conversation. They're not just standing there, they're actually part of a global chat group. Just no emojis. So I went to this forest, and I was like, okay, trees, let's talk. But then I realized, I'm not a tree. I'm just a human with a megaphone and a notebook. The first tree I asked was like, you want to talk? We can't hear you. You're too loud. Then the next one said, we don't have ears. We have roots. Then I tried to explain that trees communicate through chemicals and fungi. The tree said, yeah, but you're not a fungus. You're just a weirdo with a notebook. I tried to explain a mycorrhizal network. The tree said, that's the internet for trees. You're not connected. You're just a guy with a Wi-Fi router and a bad filter. Finally, I gave up and just sat under a tree, eating a snack. The tree said, you're not a tree. You're just a human with snacks and a bad sense of humor. So we're talking about trees that can send messages across miles, like a forest with its own secret hotline. It's like they're on a conference call, but with more leaves and less Wi-Fi. Some trees can send these messages so fast, they're basically doing a forest version of text messaging. It's like they're saying, hey, I'm about to fall over, help, in 10 seconds flat. And it's not just about warnings, they also share nutrients, like a forest version of Venmo. It's like they're saying, I've got extra sugar, wanna split? But here's the kicker, this system is so advanced. It's like the trees have a secret club with a password. Only the right trees can join, and they have to know the rules of the forest. So next time you're in the woods, maybe you should listen a little closer. You might hear the trees whispering, hey, you're not the only one thinking about this. Okay, so trees are like, I got this, no worries until the weather decides to play games. Storms, droughts, or just a really bad neighbor tree. It's like when your friend says they'll help you move, but then they bring a herd of elephants. When the weather turns ugly, trees can't just call their friend for a hug. They have to rely on their own weird, plant-based strength. Imagine trying to hold up a tent in a hurricane, but with roots and a lot of drama. In the worst cases, trees can't even send out warnings anymore. They're too busy trying to survive. It's like when you're so stressed you can't even tell your friends you're stuck in a loop of doom. And if the tree is really damaged, it might not make it through the season. Nature has its own version of a no survivors moment. It's like when you try to make a TikTok dance and it's just bad. So yeah, trees whisper a lot, but sometimes the whispers are just I'm sorry, I fail, and the forest has to deal with it. So trees can talk, but they're not exactly the best diplomats. Imagine if your best friend started a rumor about you behind your back. You'd be like, wait, are we still friends? They send out these chemical signals, but it's like a messy text message. You get the vibe, but you're not sure if it's a meet me at the park or I'm moving to a different state kind of vibe. And then there's the whole unstressed out thing. Trees get stressed too, like when you're stuck in traffic and your brain is screaming, I want to be somewhere else. It's not just about talking, it's about survival. Like when you're in a crowded room and you're trying to not start a fight, but you're also trying to find your friends. So yeah, trees whisper, but it's not always nice. It's like a family dinner where everyone has something to say, and sometimes it's not the best time to be there. So, how did humans even figure out trees talk? Well, it wasn't like they just walked up to a tree and asked, hey, wanna chat? Show a person in a lab coat holding a clipboard, standing in front of a tree, looking confused and trying to ask it a question with their eyes. Instead, scientists started listening to the forest like it's a giant, silent concert, and they realized the trees weren't just standing there. They were actually having a conversation. They used special tools, like microphones and sensors, to catch the whispers. Kind of like how you try to hear a conversation in a busy cafe. And then, they realized the trees aren't just whispering, they're actually sending messages through their roots, like a secret underground internet. So, basically, humans figured it out by being really quiet and paying attention to the forest, which is basically like a bunch of trees trying to gossip, but with more roots and less drama. Okay, so what if a tree is just really bad at talking? Like, it's trying to whisper, but it's also sneezing and blowing leaves everywhere. You know, like a tree who's also a windbag. Imagine a tree that's like, I'm not doing this anymore, I'm just gonna yell. But then it realizes it's a tree, so it's like, wait, I can't yell, I'm a tree, I have to whisper, but I'm also a windbag. And then, in a final act of desperation, the tree just starts vibrating. Like, vibrating so hard it's basically a tree version of a vibrating phone. And somehow, it's still whispering. So yeah, trees can whisper. But sometimes they get so frustrated they just start vibrating. It's weird, it's funny, and it's basically a tree version of a toddler throwing a tantrum. Before you go, if you enjoyed this, please give it a like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And tell us in the comments what you'd like us to make next. We read every single one. Thank you so much for watching.